Well, hello all. For folks that have been using this application, this is a welcome again. For folks that this is the first time they are attempting to play the Fleet Series game, I want to kind of do a refreshed starter's guide for the application. I've recently posted on the Solitaire War Games Facebook group, and there's been quite a number of people that have been, starting to get aware of this app. And I just wanted to provide something current that shows the newest version, how to actually turn it on, how to actually start the game. Try to, just really not get necessarily into the scenarios, but more get into actually using the app because I think that's going to be something that people need to be able to do. So I'm gonna kind of try to treat it like as if I were someone, playing this game or downloading it from reacting to one of my posts on Facebook. So I'm just going to go from there. So essentially, let's say you read this comment here. I clicked on this link. It brought up a ton of it brought up a ton of things like this. Google Drive can't scan this. You say download anyway. Okay. You download that, then it downloaded. It went through the whole process of it like was warning me of doing that. I'm gonna try it again uh, and see what happens. And it might it probably download over a second time, right? So I'm gonna download. It's probably gonna warn me, and you basically just listen to it, right? Okay. Well, I've already downloaded once. Okay, isn't commonly downloaded. Make sure you trust it. So it looks like for my thing at least, I have to go here. I have to say keep. Then it's saying, "Hey, are you absolutely sure?" And I'm going, "Yes, I'm sure." Okay. So now I've downloaded it twice just to show you how it works. Okay. So now we're going to go into the directory structure and we're going to get it and we're going to figure out how we'll do it. So now when I click it, I'm going to click it just like a thing. All right, here we go. Don't run. If you say more info, you go over here, you say run anyway. All right, here we go. So welcome to the MB Fleet Series Setup Wizard. Hopefully you got to this point. If you don't get to this point, then likely what you probably need is you probably need to download Microsoft.NET. Okay, so I would try to get the latest version. I think it's .NET.9. You could just search on your browser for Microsoft.NET download, and you do that. Once you do that and install it, then you try to run this thing again. It'll pop up. If it doesn't, let me know. We can try to figure it out. We had some people very early on who had some older machines were not able to run this thing, but I made some edits to the way that the binary is created to make it a little more compatible with other machines. And now generally I don't seem to have anybody having problems with actually getting the thing to work. Okay, so but you need to have .NET. So follow this. We follow this thing here. All right, it's asking me where to save it. It's going to prompt you for program files, MB Fleet Series. I don't put it there because if things get put into the program files, lots of times if you're this app like creates like files, it creates save games, and it yells at you, and it doesn't like, and it says you need administrator privileges. So one way of getting around that is I'll show you the both ways of getting around it. The first way of getting around it is don't put it into program files. Put it into a directory that you have like admin control over. Okay. If you don't know anything about that, then just go ahead and accept that it puts into the program files, and I'll show you how to get around it after it's been installed. But I'm going to browse because I don't want it there. So I put them into what I do is in my users uh, area here, right? So basically, like if you're going into, this is like where all your documents are and stuff like that. I go to Mark B, which is that's my user on my machine. And I put it into I put it into this directory, which is going to be MB Fleet Series. Okay, so I click that and I hit OK. So it's going to put it into that directory. Okay, um, and then I just tell it there's a difference between doing just me and everyone. Whatever you end up doing, just always pick the same thing. So I would say just leave it to where what it defaults as is just me. Hit next. It's gonna go. It's gonna warn you again that this is like the eighth warning. All right, so it's downloading it. Okay. All right, has been successfully installed. Close. Okay, so now let's go to that location where it put it. Now you could either go to, you could also go to your programs, right? If you type in here and you look up Fleet Series, it'll probably put it up here. Let me see here. Let's see. I'll look up, instead of Fleet Series, I'll look up MB. That's probably what it's going to look for. MB Fleet Series. Oh, you can see it on GitHub and everything. Anyway, it should put it into your program files. Okay. What I've done, right, is I've created a. I'm just going to go to my desktop here, and I've created a shortcut. Okay. So the way you do that is you can go to the actual directory structure that you have it in. If I can, I don't know why for some reason my Explorer will not do things. I don't know what's going on here. Jeez Louise. The computer's acting absolutely insane right now. Okay. Um, so it put into C drive users, right? It's going to go into users. It went into Mark B. It went into my MB directory. It put in the Fleet series, right? And essentially, this is the thing that's going to get added in, right? So this probably it's got added into your program files, okay? So what you could either do is what I did was I right clicked on this and yeah, I right clicked on this. It says show more options. I think it'll say something like create a, let's see here. I think what you do is you can right click on it and drag it. I don't know why all of a sudden my machine doesn't do things that everything does. It says you either move to desktop or create a shortcut there, right? What you want to do is you want to create a shortcut. Okay. Oh, there you go. Okay. Create shortcuts here. So if I were to put it here, so what I do is I dragged over here, and then when I do that, it'll ask me create a shortcut, and I'll create a shortcut. So when you create a shortcut, it creates a shortcut. A lot of this stuff is hopefully stuff you guys know how to do, but if you don't, then you can follow what I'm doing. However confusing it is how I'm doing it. So now you have a shortcut here on your desktop or wherever you want it, right? So the best way to do it, I think, is go into this shortcut and you go into properties, and then I think there is a security here. Where's it at? No, details. It's probably under details. Compatibility, maybe. Uh, general. Good laws. Let me see. Maybe you just do this. Maybe you just run as administrator. That's probably what you ought to do. Okay. Um, yeah, I really I should have tested this out before I um, before I start doing a video of this. But anywho, like I said, I'm not a professional game maker. I'm basically just a hobbyist right here. Okay, so essentially by setting this up so that it runs as a administrator, um, another thing you could do is on this file here, you can right click on it and you could say run as administrator, right? So either way, likely if you do that, if you get problems where like when you start the game and it tells you, hey, you don't have access, then you have to just run it as administrator, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and click on this, double click on it. Do you want to allow changes? Yes. Unbelievable. Okay, so now the game pops up. Okay, so it took us I don't know how many minutes to um, to do this, but essentially, hopefully, it will take you much less. And each time a new version comes in, which there are a lot of new versions, right? I'm constantly making new features. I'm adding new things in. What I'm currently doing right now is adding in the um, computer player for each of the scenarios included. So when you start yours, you're going to have none of this stuff. All of these are saved games, including directories for saved games. And you can set up your saved games in directories however you want. and I can show you that later. But really, right now, I think that the key thing is when you start it, you'll have three options up, which is how do I use this app, which takes you through a tour of the app. You can also just start an empty sandbox that just goes, it just basically goes to the very first part of the game and allows you to pretty much have control over what countries you set up, what forces are on, or likely what you probably want to do when you first start the game is you want to use a template. And these templates are a bunch of missions that I've created for this game. Okay. And if you're familiar with the Fleet series, there are 5 games: second, third, fifth, sixth, and seventh. So I've created a set of like indicative scenarios per game. I started off with some of the really small ones, and as I started going to this, I started doing the larger scenarios. So pretty much, I think I have like the culminating scenario for like all 5 games in it. The World War III scenario for Seventh Fleet, as well as for Sixth. For Fifth Fleet, there really isn't a like a super big scenario. I mean, there is, but I didn't create it, right? So I just created a number of them. Gulf of Aden, Invasion, and Battle of Flat Tops. For Third Fleet, I tried to put all of the big culminating missions in for this, and then for Second Fleet is the World War III scenario. Okay, so before we do that, I'm going to return to the main menu, and I want you to do a little tour of the app. Okay, so we'll do, how do I use this app? All right, so this is basically going to be, if you click this, it's going to take you through a bunch of little things that'll explain everything. And I want you, if you want to really understand how the game works, I definitely advise you to go through this, how do I use this app first? So let's do that. Okay, so welcome to this app. All right, a series of pop-ups are going to show you the things on the app user interface. There's an open scroll area, which we're on right now. This gray area. This is where the whole game takes place. And the way the game will work is the game will have stuff here, and then you'll have like menus on the side when you click things. It'll be context menus, and it'll show things like information about the thing that you've selected, plus any things you can do to it in that particular phase of the game. Okay, so first, it shows that this area here that it highlights in black, this is where you're going to see your selected marker. Anytime you click on anything on the map, it'll bring it up here, blown up a little bit, and then it'll put some information of it in this area. Okay, so this will be whatever you have selected. Here is sometimes there's markers on the map that you can't click or you can't do anything with during that phase. So if you click on something, or if you even put your mouse over a marker that is not clickable, it'll show up in here. So you may have 2 different units showing up here. You're going to have the selected marker here, and you're going to have like the contextual clicked marker here, or mouse over marker here. The game will make sure it never puts the same one in both sides, so it'll always be something different as long as there is something different. So in other words, if the last thing you clicked is the selected one, then you're not going to have anything in this clicked area. You're just going to have it under selected. So just remember that this is always the thing that is selected. And another feature is that when you click this area, it'll take you to that thing. So if you scroll the map, and it'll keep showing this selected marker, and you can click it and it'll take you back there. There's also navigation around it here. This goes from so normally in every phase, you're going to have a bunch of different things that you can select. Well, you can navigate through those by either finding them on a map and clicking them, or by going through this and hitting left, right. And it'll kind of go through the complete list of things that you can interact with during that phase. Okay. All right, the next buttons are ones that will not work until you choose the scenario, but let's go through them. Okay, so there's a help button up here. This basically gives you the ability to know what you're supposed to do in that phase. Okay, and there is a setting that whenever you first enter a particular phase that you've never been in, you'll get a pop-up explaining what that phase is about. Well, this is once you get past that, and now you're not getting any more pop-ups, but you still want to remember what the phase is about, you can click that button, and it'll tell you what that phase is about, what the instructions are. The next one is a big green button that says next. That's used for the next phase. Okay, so that's basically how you advance the game. So the game advances through like uh, the only way it interacts with the game is by clicking on things, telling them to do things, and then if the phase is over because you've told everything that needs to be told to do something, it'll automatically move on. If you want to not necessarily give orders to everything, or maybe like skip something, or maybe not choose to intercept something or whatever, then you can click the green button to move on. That's the next phase button. There was a little there's an icon for a tombstone. You click that, it'll then navigate to an area of the map away from the blue area where all the sea is. It'll go to a different corner, I think the upper left hand corner, and it'll show all the things that have been destroyed during the scenario so far, including things that you intentionally remove from the scenario because like they've either achieved an objective. A lot of the Fleet series games have like certain objectives that when say a transport ship reaches a place it's supposed to get removed. Well, when it gets removed, it'll show up in the destroyed area, so you can see everything that was once part of the game that is now not. All right, VP menu, you'll click this to see any victory points that are being accumulated. There will be a lot of victory points that are going to be automatically calculated by the game, but there is an option to manually adjust the VPs, and you'll have that on that menu. You can then adjust it. Okay. Sequence of play. If you want to know like what steps are next, it'll show you the sequence of play. It'll do a big pop up, and it'll kind of show you where you currently are and then what like phases are around you. It won't show the complete sequence of play. It'll kind of show just contextually, like if you're 5 levels deep in the sequence of play, it'll show everything that's around that 5 levels deep, and all the other high level kind of phases. So you have a general idea of how the turn is organized. There's a setting kind of cog. You can click on that to bring up options, which I'll do when we finally bring up a game. Um, if you want to click on the rules, so there's a file with every scenario that contains the rules for that scenario. If you click this button, it'll show up an area here, a text area, where it'll show the rules. Um, this button is kind of a new button. It has to do with AI. So if you're not playing with any sides being AI, you probably don't ever want to click this button. Or you might click this button to like clear some information from the context menu that shows up when you click on a unit. If it's on, then there will be some extra information in there like this unit is linked to a deployment, this deployment objective, or this a patrol objective, right? It'll give you an idea what that thing is linked to. Now, for AI controlled, it makes sense, right? But for if you're not playing with an AI side, then you probably can click that off because you don't necessarily need to see it. I would play around with it and see if you care about the information it provides, and if you don't care about that information, then you can click it, and that stuff will go away from this menu. All right, and then we have some quick navigators to different areas of the map. Second Fleet, Caribbean Sea, Sixth Fleet, Fifth Fleet, Seventh Fleet. So these are the 5 areas of the game. So they can click you anywhere on the globe. It'll take you to one of those things. Okay, I'm just going to skip past these. Caribbean, Sixth Fleet, Fifth Fleet, Seventh Fleet. Save in progress. This button is really only used during like setup. There's really only certain big steps in the beginning when you're setting up your stuff. You may want to like save your progress. Um, this button is largely not usable throughout the rest of the game because once the actual mission starts, the only way it saves is when it moves from phase to phase, it automatically saves to the save file. Okay. If you get to a point in your setup where you want to save off a copy of it, you can click it here, and that'll create a separate branch, a separate directory that replicates the exact spot that the game was at that moment of the last time it was saved. And you could use that if like you're again as a player, if you're just playing the game, I don't see any need to ever hit that button. But if you're an admin, like a person that is creating missions, then you may create like one mission that's like this, like a starting point for like a bunch of other missions, and then you want to just copy that one off so you can use it as a template for other things. So that's what it's used for. I would just ignore it if you're not planning on doing anything like scenario design. If you're doing scenario design, then it's useful. And if you are starting to do scenario design, I would, give me a holler, right? I really would love to talk with people that are trying to set up missions. I can help you out. I can tell you how to like set them up. I can give you tips and tricks and stuff that maybe I didn't explain in one of my videos. All right, and then you have four zoom buttons that basically just zoom the map to four specific pre-selected levels. Step one or zoom level one is like way out. It's like the whole globe, while four is the most close, and it's a very tactical view. Okay. All right. This is gonna have like the name of the phase that you're on. So watch this as it goes. When you press buttons and it's moving through phases, you'll see these names update. You'll also see the color update, which means that the game is going through different phases for different sides. So a lot of the game, a lot of the way this Fleet series goes, it's a very procedural, right? It's like the Soviets go, then the Allies go, or then the next time it comes around, the Allies go first and the Soviets go, right? So you can kind of tell by what phase it's flipping through, it's skipping through, let's say, because there's nothing for it to do, and you can also tell what color, what side that was for. So, and that's it. Um, the game comes as a sandbox, so you can start this sandbox mode or you can use templates. I would say for right now, start using templates. I would say, get to know how the game works, and then when you feel that you have enough confidence that you could build your own scenario, then go into sandbox mode. Or go to any of the templates and then work on it. And then you could, once you start the template, it'll actually essentially create a copy of it. And then you could save that one off or make copies of that to use like as a starting point for your own scenarios. All right. So that's about it. I'm gonna bring up one mission and show you a little bit about things, and I'll make it a very small one so you kind of understand how the game kind of works. So I'm gonna click the start template, and I'm gonna pick, let's say, a very simple scenario like, well, let's pick a somewhat medium scenario, the Gulf of Aden offensive, which takes place around the Arabian Peninsula. Okay, so I'm gonna click this. It tells you that it's creating a new save game folder. So the next time you come in, you'll see a new folder called 503 Gulf of Aden and with this timestamp on it. Okay. Now let's let it go. So at this point, what it's doing, it's starting up, it's reading in all of the data from the database, which is included with the game, which is essentially just a big glorified CSV file. And then it brings up the first phase. As you can tell, when it brings up the phase, the first thing it does is it shows you what you're trying to do in this thing. So I'm going to hit done on that. But if you forget, then you can just click here for help, and boom, it shows it up. So it kind of gives you what you're doing during this one. The setup phase is probably one of the most important phases in the game if you're building a scenario. If you're playing a scenario, then honestly, you don't really have anything to do here. The only thing you have to do here is likely look at your options, pick your options, and then hit go, and it'll start the game. Okay? So, what are the options? Well, notice you can set behavior of the AI of each side. Currently, both sides are set to none. That means that this is a person versus person game. Um, that just means that likely you are going to be playing yourself on both sides, or you have a friend over and you are doing it like in an I go, you go method. If you're doing it that way with a two human players, then make sure you set this pause when switching side views option. Okay? When transitioning between sides, a black screen and alert pops up, useful to hide the other side's units during hot seat games. So if you're not playing against if it's not two players, then I would just leave this off. Okay. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to set this up as a game where I'm going to have the AI play the AI. Well, I'll set it up as a game where I'm playing against the AI. So I'll have the Soviets be the AI. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on here and I'm going to set it to them to be either cautious or normal or aggressive or none. Okay, so if I go back to none, then they're back to being a human player. If I click them onto normal, they're going to just be a normal AI player. Okay. So other things, I would take most of these ones here, air surface detections in combat, stationary surface detection, real-time sub detection, combined combat. These are all features that I've added into the game that are different than how the game comes out of the box from, from the paper version. Okay. I really do think that since the game uses a combined action phase, the way the game that comes out of the way the game that was in the 80s and 90s came out is you had to basically like I'm gonna move all my surface ships. Okay, now this my enemy is now gonna move all of their aircraft, and then I'm gonna move my subs. Well, I've done away with that because a lot of people have felt that that is, it's not the way they like playing it. They like playing it with a little more different approach. Well, since this is a computer, I'm able to control a lot of stuff. So basically, I set it so that the way the action phase works here is you're essentially activating everything you want to activate at the beginning, as well as the enemies doing the same. And then you're just moving everything during the thing. And the game can keep track of all that stuff happening at the same time. So we're going to take advantage of the fact that we have a computer to do that. Um, so given that, right, you now have aircraft flying around at the same time as ships flying around or ships sailing around. So you want to have your air surface detection to combat. It makes sense, right? If an aircraft goes by a ship as it's during the action phase, then you want a chance that they detect each other. So I would just keep these options always checked. They're good, and they work. Um, there's a slight if you care about the command failure, that is a particular thing that happens as a random event. And if you get a command failure in a particular zone, the different games of the Fleet series were not consistent about what that means. So I'm just having it say you can choose whether or not the command failure actually impacts activations or not. Um, if it doesn't, that means it only impacts things like strategic uh, air missions. Okay. And if you don't know what you want to do with these things, I would click them, and a little pop-up will happen. And they'll tell you what that thing means by you turning it on or turning it off. Okay. Now I've pretty much done away with the strategic phase in this game. You can use a strategic phase, but because of the way now the game allows you to move everything at the same time, essentially everything that you could do during your strategic phase, you now can do during the action phase, right? If I want to scout out someplace, I don't have to do it in the strategic phase. I can actually just send planes out during the action phase to look for things. If I want to lay mines, I can just send a plane over the spot I want to drop mines and have it drop mines, or have a submarine do the same. I can do that actually in the action phase. So pretty much I've kind of gotten to the point where you could pretty much skip the strategic phase, uh, the strategic air phase, that is. So you can choose to do that. So if you do, then what I would recommend is you turn off the strategic mining and strategic attack coordination. That means that now I can do those during the action phase. Okay? And that's what I'm doing here. Okay, so we got to set it up. Soviets normal, Allies none. Everything else is set. I'm going to hit done, and then I'm going to hit go. Okay, it should start moving through. So now, first thing it does is it goes to deployment. So now, as the allied player, notice all of the enemy things went away. All right, you can't see anything. So that's the key with the computer. So in the board game, you always see all the units, and even though you technically don't really see it because it's not detected, you have to ignore it, like as if you didn't know it was there. Well, now you don't have to ignore it. It just won't be there. You won't see it. When it switches to the Soviet side, it'll show it. If you were playing both sides. If you're playing with the Soviet as AI, then the only time I'm going to see anything Soviet is when I detect it. Okay? So, um, there's really not a whole lot of stuff to do here. Most of these guys have an initial. You could use this deployment phase to kind of set up things. I would recommend reading the help and see what things you can do on here. It says here, this is your final opportunity to adjust deployment before the game starts. To move around, just drag the unit to where you would like it to go. For air units, you can only move it to an airfield or an off-map base. For sea, you can move it to any sea hex, port, or off-map base. You can form task forces and task groups. So I'll show you how to do that right now. And then after that, I think at that point, I'd probably hit a stop to this video. And because I think it's a pretty good start of how you actually start the game. And then you can see my other videos for like more details. But let's say I want to form a task force with the French carrier, the Clemenceau. So I have it selected here. Here are the options of the things I can do. Down here is all the other things um, in that area. Okay, you'll notice a couple of weird things like replenish Djibouti. If I click that, what that is that's a mission. Okay, that's an objective. Now the objective is for a human player. If you see the objectives, then you kind of have an idea of what the AI, if the AI were your side, what would they do? It helps from a context perspective, but just remember, none of these objectives are ever used if your side is not AI. Okay, so you'll likely be able to see some Soviet objectives because I've set them in the game. There's certain ones that you want to set. So I think for instance, I think at Aden, if you notice, right, in Aden, if you look up right, it says in that location is a transit Aden. Okay, so if I go and if I double click on this, it shows the different things in this thing, and I click on the transit Aden, and what that basically is this is a transit objective. So if you read the rules, you know that somebody's trying to get to Aden, right? So I think they have some folks who start like up here somewhere, which I don't know where they're at now, but they'll start somewhere, and their objective is to get to Aden. Okay, so um, anyway, I went on a tangent like I always do. So let's go ahead and just create a task force. So for the Clemenceau, I'm just going to create a task force. I'm going to say create task force. Then I'm going to pick other units in this area, like the Jean Bart. I'm going to say join it. I'm going to pick the Duquesne, join. I'm going to pick or Duquesne, I guess, the Duguay, Truin. I'm going to have it join as well. Everything so far is in this group now. Nothing else is left to put in. Your fighters can't get put into, you can't do anything with the fighter. You can set your delay. All this delay means is it doesn't show up at the beginning of the game. I would ignore it. If essentially if you're not setting up a game, I would largely ignore what you're doing in deployment, other than setting up task forces. Okay, so we just set up that task force, and I would likely do the same with this group. As you saw before, if you double click an area, it shows all the ships in that area. Then if you double click it again, it goes away. Okay, double click shows that there's a carrier or the ranger, there's a destroyer, and some other things in here. Okay, so likely I would set these up with the task force too. If there was some allowances for me to move this guy around, then I would move them to wherever they need to be. But this is like a good starting point. The AI, on the other hand, you can set them up to be in different deployment zones where they would pick different areas to go in. So essentially, this is, I didn't really want to get too much into actually playing the game in this one because I have other videos for that. But this is a good starter of how you actually would start the game, um, click on it, install it. Like I said, two major things to remember. You're going to need .NET, and you're likely going to have to answer a bunch of things saying, "Hey, whoa, wait for things. Are you sure you want to download this?" And you just go ahead and say, "Yeah, I want to download it." And that's about it. I really appreciate it. I will be on the boards on the different Facebook groups. You can also, DM me or send me a question on YouTube or send me a question in Facebook. Either way, I really appreciate anybody who wants to check this out, and I really, really, really would appreciate any feedback at all. What missions do you like? What missions do you want me to add the AI into? I'm currently adding them into as many as I can, but it takes a while, right? So I'm about a third of the way done right now. And I'm pretty much going from top down when you get the list of all of the ones the ones toward the top are the ones that I have done. But I release little messages telling you which ones have AI set up for them or not. So that's about it. So I really appreciate the interest, and again, I hope to talk to you soon. Thank you so much.